Hi guys, my name is Borodante, and welcome back to Overpain, which means I go through my Patreon page and check out several of your guys' submissions that you've sent to me throughout the last 3 months or so. I'm trying to catch up with the amount of stuff you guys sent to me recently, so I decided to take advantage of that huge amount of submissions and sort of group them into themes. So today we're gonna talk about how to work with a full height character art, whether it involves a little bit of the background or maybe, it's just some abstract stuff. But generally, how to position a full height character in a picture that's just fully dedicated to this character. And that's gonna be our theme today, heavily leaning at fixing the artwork not with the brute force, but with changing your understanding of what it needs to be. So instead of working hard with your hands, you're gonna be using your brain. That's, I think, a much better way to live your life as an artist and stop falling into the same trap of, I'll just work my ass off on this one piece and everyone's gonna love me for that, despite the fact that it has a wrong composition and generally the idea is just not conveyed well. So please join me together in this fight against this natural desire or natural misunderstanding of many artists that your hard physical labor of painting equals the quality of the artwork. I think it's a root cause of most issues of most artists. So we're gonna be covering all of that today. Now this video has a sponsor, Wingfox, and they're having this mid-year sale on their website where you can get a 25% of extra discount on a whole bunch of different awesome courses that you can find on this special page. The link to it is in the video description. Make sure to check it out because this is a huge deal. You have all kinds of courses that cover any type of artwork you may possibly go for. And also below you'll find a link to this page where you can assemble your own bundle of 2 courses that are all themed around this beginner to advanced idea. You'll get to learn from the best professionals in the industry, not just get few tips here and there, but really get a whole package that will bring your skill level much higher. That's the philosophy behind these courses. They're really powerful packages of information that really let you understand the industry and how you should think about your artwork to really make it useful for your future professional work. So yeah, the way these bundles work, you have a set of courses right here to choose from. So you go ahead and add to bundle any 2 courses that you would like. And there you have it. Now you pay $83 instead of $208. So this is all together with this special offer right here. It makes 60% off. Make sure not to miss out on this awesome bundle deal. All the links are affiliate and you can find them in the video description. Now back to the video. First patient is Roladin Koenig, aka Max, and they have this awesome artwork with a very creepy creature in the woods. Hello there. Hi Max. So this is what comes to my mind apparently. Very pale guys with swords. For the first time I actually got a bit into the character I drew. He is, I guess, some kind of a wandering lost soul. A wooed shriek. I changed my brushes in Krita and also changed my brushwork a bit. I'm quite happy where this was going. Let's talk about some issues. Firstly, the tree that gets most of the light seems a bit too smooth. I mean, yeah, that's a good observation. You should have done something about that. I really think that. I wanted it to appear to be overlit, but didn't really hit the mark. Secondly, something with the character. I wanted to add a piece of fabric around his waist, yet failed so badly that I just left it without any. So I want to start with understanding what this character would really mean to us. When you develop a character, especially I really feel like you are creating it at least partially in a mode of improvisation. Like you just start with a certain feeling, a certain partial idea, and then just looking to make it work. and seeing what shows up on your canvas, which is totally cool. But when you do that, the idea becomes a little bit random and you grow to be too familiar with it, you're too close to it during that process, so you can't really evaluate the way people would look at it when they see it for the first time. And really, when you create an artwork, like any artwork, if you really want it to be impressive and really work as a solid piece, you need to start with that idea. What would strike the viewer as its main thing the moment they see it? So you would be confident in what you're going for at all. It's not about the way his cloth is working or not. It's not the way this tree is too smooth or not. It's about what's like the message of the picture. Why does it exist? So I really feel like this kind of picture is about the creature. It's a horror picture, but it really feels super casual. Maybe there was some kind of attempt to make it work one way or another, or maybe you were just too occupied with, making the lighting work and making certain details work that you kind of forgot to think about why you even work on these details at all. So that's where usually the removal of details comes in. Many details on this picture, on this character specifically, they only take away from the message and from the quality of the meaning of this picture, like from the actual quality of the picture, not quality of the details, but quality of the picture altogether. So what I'm selecting right now is a foreground layer. So I really feel like this should differ a lot from everything that's going on in the back. And you had a pretty good call with making that tree bright, but there's a lot of issues with the way the shape of the character sort of meets the tree. Like, obviously we don't want the tangents going on because they really confuse the viewer. We need to make sure that if something is made completely by hand, it needs to be done correctly. Like, there should be no accidents, only the happy ones. We don't want, the edge of this creepy black arm to fall so close with the edge of the tree. And the leg sort of is continued by this tree as well. There's so much conflict of the shape and the positioning of this tree and like how it works with the character. So I'm really gonna change its position a lot. We want that overexposed look, so I'm gonna go like this bright, and that's where the tree will be. So there we have it, a little revamping of the whole situation, like location. So what I did was I made the exposure look like we mean it, since you specifically was going for it. I decided to actually use it for the composition. So now it's really like it lights up not just the dark tree trunk, but also the grass, like the foliage at the bottom, these bushes. I even added like a glow from them. Let me merge that down. And I made sure that the grass is like really bright. It should be brighter than the tree trunk. In your case, it was just the tree and the foliage was like the same brightness as the tree. Like leaves are brighter than the tree trunk. Pretty much always, I guess. So what I'm trying to say is, if you go for an overexposed tree trunk, that means everything else will be absolutely blown out. Tree trunk is the darkest thing in the woods. So we're going for an insane contrast. It will be super bright in there. And now our guy will be heavily lit only from the back. but you generally were going with that. But I'm gonna increase that, especially to support this silhouette that we have here. Since generally this guy doesn't have too much detail on him, which he doesn't have to have too much of it, you know, but there also shouldn't be the design of the picture that is kind of supposed to work if the character would have a complex design to look at, you know, like we're trying to show as much of him as possible. It's not the point. The dude is like almost like a basic 3D model of some kind of anthropomorphic creature that you start working with or something. It's not bad, you know, a lot of the times horror is better off being simplified because it's not about some specific cultural features on the creature. If it's something completely unearthly, it shouldn't have all that, you know, we shouldn't be too focused on that kind of stuff. But what we need to show is the mood. What should we feel when we suddenly stumble upon this dude in the woods? So I'm gonna go ahead and do this on him. I think that's actually what I'm trying to do, pretty much. And yeah, as you can see, this brightest part in here, in terms of like making the tree trunk look not smooth, but more of a sharp and dry, it's all about the things I always keep repeating to you guys. Like, if you want to show a nature of some kind of surface, it's the highlights and terminators where you need to show all the effects or even just details of the surface. So on the edges, we need to make sure we expose all these sticking out details like of the tree trunk. You can look up references on, you know, if you want to go really detailed on that. Because in here, as you said, is supposed to be blown out, being completely overexposed. Maybe sometimes I would allow a little bit of this like micro shadow, but not here, only here, closer to this terminator. It's kind of possible that there some object would be, you know, long enough to cast a shadow and sort of tear apart this terminator into this complex and very sharp texture. Something is sticking out, it's casting a sharp shadow, and then suddenly there's another thing, you know, it's very a sharp and very brutal process when you have such a complex shape as a tree trunk surface, tree bark. You see, we're easily getting this effect by doing this this whole shenanigan. But of course I won't be making it too strong next to the character because we don't want to fight for attention in here. Maybe we'll just overexpose it a little bit like this. And even here you see this terminator in here, I sort of faded it out a little bit. Not because it's a smoother part of the tree, but because it's a smoother part of the painting, because we have this very sharp line of something that's much more important to us right now, which is the creature. And maybe make that shape a little bit more interesting, just to have something to look at, you know? It's not about looking up the specific details of the anatomy, it's about looking for what will bring the feeling of it, you know? Like, is this a strong warrior character? I assume so, because of the sword. So let's make his body to be a lot more bony, maybe not exactly armor, but some kind of exoskeleton, while at the same time it may be like covered with skin at the same time. It's kind of weird thing, you know? And yeah, after that we can of course go for all kinds of details, but all of those details are now gonna definitely work, because I've put message into every part of it. Like, it's the boring part now. You can obviously see how we can add more leaves or anything we want, and it won't really change the picture. The main thing is about the contrast and the mood, and of course if you're adding a super bright sunlight spot into one part of the forest, you need to add those all over the forest as well. It's kind of weird how this is literally the only spot. Like, right now even when I switch back and forth, This feels like there's some kind of projector going on, or maybe a magical item in an RPG that's casting just a glow all of a sudden. So this makes a whole lot more sense. We have this foreground, we have this message, we have the mystery of the dark silhouette, you know, yet at the same time, we have enough information on all kinds of details. We have the reflected light in here, a little bit of the skylight from the top, exposing just the right amount of detail to have the understanding of what's going on. And generally the composition is broken into interesting shapes, you know, this dance of tall trees in here, broken down by this super contrasty thing going on here, and our character has its own nice spot. So yeah, hope it was helpful. Next patient is Tati. Hi Tati. Hi Boro, this piece is called Lost Soul, and I am specifically trying to make it so that the man is the first thing you see when you look at this image. I think I did it? I don't know, you guys tell me if you agree with me, but really there's a lot of fight for attention going on. About the same amount of contrast behind like this with the background and this with the background, you know, just about the same contrast. And this, some kind of a holy spirit is taking up a lot more space on the picture. The only thing that's missing here is to move the picture like this, or, you know, to add more over here to put this head closer to like the rule of thirds to make this picture 100% about the spiritual entity. So first things first, I actually wanna change the picture a little bit. Right now, it feels like the picture is like this, and these guys are just on the sides. While they both fight for attention, at the same time they're kind of like really far away from the center. They almost act like a frame. I would maybe change the perspective here. I really feel like, you know, this pose and the angle really goes for some kind of a stronger perspective game here. And this whole dynamic portal going on in here, it could really benefit. I can feel like the motion in here, it would benefit from a stronger perspective effect. And one thing we can do to immediately make it stronger is to introduce more like overlapping of different grounds. So in this case, I would put this guy here, and all this would be the usual business. Then I'll erase all this stuff a little bit. We'll be seeing less of the just pure white spot of this portal because there's a stronger angle. We're like more at a side. And this creature will be a bit closer in here. And maybe, you know what, actually a lot closer. Maybe I would put it even like this. And yeah, as I said, by putting it closer, I sort of make it even more important. But of course, it should be more important, but not as important as our man in here, as he said. So the rest is just about the play of contrasts. And since I've put our spiritual creature here a lot closer to this portal that's really bright, we can really, you know, hide it a little bit in this brightness. So yeah, honestly, with the amount of contrast you very much intentionally put behind the creature here, I feel like I'm changing your very much conscious decision on making it super noticeable, you know? But I mean, as you said, we need to tone it down. And honestly, I feel like it would just look a bit better because that super dark brown color behind, it's sort of like killing the feeling of perspective, like aerial perspective. If we tone it down like this, there will be much more air behind. So this may be like almost a landscape going on in there, you know? Why not actually make it so? But of course, it shouldn't fight with the portal. I understand it's very important. So more of a pastel, subtle colors there. I'm just gonna remove the darker spots behind the creature like this, using the lighten mode to just remove all the darkness like this, which will bring the contrast much closer to the creature. And yeah, to make sure it doesn't go completely flat, because this effect is very strong like this, You just make it a little bit semi-transparent then, and then no one will be able to tell you anything. And yeah, one thing I can see in here that's a bit of an issue is that, like, this color of the portal that's supposed to be the brightest thing on the screen is fighting with the brightest spot on the face. Like, the portal is like a light source, and the face is just a surface lit by something. So it definitely altogether should be just noticeably, not too much, but noticeably at least, darker than that whole portal in the back. Like, we're hitting almost completely white on the face, when at the same time, some areas are really close to black already. Like, that's an insane contrast. So I'm gonna do the same thing but with the darken mode and bring down that skin brightness. It's gonna look horrible at first, and at the second time as well, but then I'll somehow improve it. Hold on. But like this, you see we're bringing back what? A silhouette, that's right. And yeah, then even going darker like this, so I'm grabbing even like a bit of a darker colors and introduce certain shades in this super flat area that I just added. And now I have some room to actually add brighter spots, because that's an easier mode of shading when you don't just darken things but also get to brighten them a little bit. But you see, we're incredibly far from what it used to be. And yeah, I'm gonna make this arm noticeably darker than those legs, because this arm is really like facing us, so completely not facing the portal or like the sky at the top or whatever would be another light source there. Now, I'll be increasing contrast around the man here, especially with like shading of these clouds a little bit to bring some more tactile presence. And this will let us introduce more details as well, you know, between light and shadow. There's a lot of silhouettes will show up, and that's where we can really play with all kinds of details. And like, yeah, this is the part where strong shadows should be happening, because this is the completely dark side of the body. And yeah, another thing I'm doing now, I'm adding more contrast on the background clouds. Not the contrast like this kind of contrast, but there's a lot of areas of rest around this character. Like, the background is very like soft waves and then suddenly super sharp silhouette on it, and that attracts attention immediately. While in here, we have a lot of high contrast details and the high contrast character and more high contrast details. That's an important trick, and many classical artists use it as well. In order to attract attention to something, it's not just about the contrast on that object, it's also about the contrast as the difference between the contrast in here and the contrast in the immediate neighbors, so to speak. So in here I added these darker shadows in here, so the clouds are suddenly darker than they are anywhere else, and that attracts attention to this dark spot and everything. While in here, I toned down the contrast of everything, and I'm adding these clouds in the bag that are doing this dance that's really close to the dance of details of the spirit itself. And that's what's truly going to decrease the amount of attention this character is taking. Even though they're right here in front of us, you know, and everything, like, we will see them immediately after the man, but the man will be first. Also, would make the dynamics in here a little bit more floaty, like this, probably. They were kind of, well, not really, it was kind of heavy, you know? A little bit of that will save the day. Same I would do here a little bit. I feel like straight lines don't really go well here. The hair as well, you know? Everything is like someone invisible is seriously dragging the hair. So you see, I'm adding the contrast right here in order to make this less noticeable. So it's like about not just the contrast, but the rhythm as well. You know, you had very different rhythm in the back, even though the contrast was kind of there, but it was smooth and specific lines that were following the logics across the whole background. And then absolutely opposite rhythm on top of it, plus the contrast. You can't not look at it. While this was hidden inside of this rhythm and the same contrast across all of these details together. So this way, you know, this is definitely the strongest contrast now of the whole spot of the character, because we brought down the brightness on the face and the body with this, you know, bigger spots making this contrast here together with the shadow on the cloud. And in here, this is just all kind of uniform now, because these clouds, they have almost the same contrast as this entity. A bit less. We could increase the contrast on the clouds even more, and then it would be completely like an actual ghost. But we still keep some, you know, dominance to the character, because I think we shouldn't see the spirit third, you know, it should be the second after the man. So I think we achieved our goal. So yeah, this is a very interesting topic. I didn't cover it too much on the channel generally with the rhythms and how really the contrast and different tricks of attention work. Like, this is a big deal. If I would make like uniform clouds of the same color going like this, you would still easily, like, already you're kind of seeing the ghost much better than when it's in this environment, you know? So now it's definitely about the man, you know? If anything, I could even tone down the shadows a little bit on them with like some of this stuff. And let's see, maybe, you know, something like this. But yeah, generally I would also probably add darker shadows altogether in here a little bit, just to add some development to the perspective, you know? We go far away. Probably whatever's causing the lighting in here will eventually stop and we'll start getting a shadow, implying that this is a pretty long distance, you know? And that's why we definitely should change the lighting as we show this distance. But of course, we should be doing that keeping in mind our original goal of not, you know, taking too much attention away from the main character. But I don't think we do, just because there's such a strong, like, two spots of bright and dark in here, you know, and this is all just darker. And there goes your signature. So there we go. I also really like the positioning of characters closer to the center. Both of them, you know, they just feel a lot more like a painting now. And instead of being a frame for something. Like maybe there should be a verse in here, you know? That's what it feels like, but that was not in the brief. So that's what you get. Next patient. Corn draws. Hi Burrow. Hi Corn. This piece is very dear to my heart, since it was the first complete and own piece that I made completely by myself. I would love to redo it, but I think I didn't improve that much since I made it maybe a year ago. So I'm asking you for help here. I think I bit off way more than I could chew. The movement in the pose, the skirt, that should be some kind of metallic holographic with all the confusing wrinkles and stuff. It's a mess. Oh, I see, that holographic material, like glassy thing that goes full rainbow. Yeah, that looks cool. My main points would be the energy of the movement and pose. I wanted it to be powerful, but also very graceful. Second would be the lighting. Urban, neon, middle of the street. Definitely no place to dance. Oh, so it's like crowded and, yeah, people walking around and she's having a moment. I mean, if I would have that holographic dress, I would also have a moment. And third, the skirt, the movement and wrinkles, but also how to achieve the holographic look. So what's interesting in here is that we need to go with the main message of the movement. It's all about the movement. She is in the spin of a dance. And if anything is not following that, that's super awkward. If I remove the background, things seem like they could really work great, you know? And no, it's not just about the fact that the place is not good for dancing, you know? I feel like it's because you have these, like a lot of these vertical lines everywhere. And they're like incredibly static. If we want to go for somehow, you know, show how the reality dissolves and she's dancing in this place and it doesn't matter. And that's kind of the general point of, you know, turning the background into almost abstract look in this kind of story. But if we are doing that, if we're transforming the image into an abstract shape like this, it shouldn't be with vertical lines. Like, that's the worst choice here. So I would go with probably more of a horizontal look, but not like, you know, this kind of perfectly horizontal lines. Although even that, you see, it's kind of starting making sense. Because what it gives the feeling of is sort of the camera spinning around her as she's spinning around as well. We should be spinning with her and make the whole world spin with her. So a little bit of that horizontal motion would be much better. But of course, we need to make sure that it's not just perfectly like horizontal. You know what? I'll just go ahead and do a little bit of that motion blur. Only first I'll completely remove her from the background with the content-aware fill. Of course, you can do it by hand. And yeah, now if we apply motion blur, yeah, that's looking much better. Also, that bright spot at the bottom, that's like the reflection of the dress. I really don't think it's justified. It doesn't really even look like it. It looks like something bright starts at the bottom, but we can see what it is. Like, that reflection would start like here, you know? It would be much further away. Like, I get you really want to show it, but you can't. Only by making a picture much taller and have it like a thing, you know, that there's a dance of her and the dance of reflection, something like that, I don't know. So yeah, I'm using linear dodge layer right here and the brush that's just soft and introducing these very saturated spots. One will go right through her like this. The neon city. Oh, and what we can really reflect here is these neon lights on the asphalt, you know, how it looks awesome in the city. And this way her reflection right here will have like the opposite contrast, which totally makes sense. It looks a lot more photorealistic this way. Also, generally the picture is cropped very strongly, like the foot is so close to the bottom of the canvas. It should be taller. I'm guessing like this. I'll just stretch this whole business together. And yeah, right next to her, over here, we can add a little bit of the static details, just because, you know, this is the point of rotation. That's where we'll see at least some kind of details that start smudging around like that as we go further and further. So you don't really have to do a lot of work here because things get smudged fast. And yeah, just introducing some texture because it shouldn't look like some kind of lame, fuzzy, aerographic painting, you know, with no detail and just gradients everywhere. Now, about the shading. Let's have a look at that holographic clothing, I guess. Not in a purely white world, please, but in the actual environment. So in the shadow, it's shaded. Still, it has maximum reflections, but if it's the dark side, it's reflecting dark things. So it's safe to say that reflecting this asphalt at night, this should be much darker, because I really want to make it darker. Let's just cover it up, almost approaching it as a mask, because right now everything's so bright and flat in here that introducing one shadow will always feel out of place. But what's giving a hint that we really need to change something is that this reflection looks correct, but it totally doesn't work with the brightness of the character. Like, why is she that bright? Even under the dress, like, it's weird. If it's a city with neon lights and everything, that means it's nighttime. So I'm gonna tone it down altogether and then tastefully erase some of the shadow. Also, I don't know why I was painting around this leg, it's also there. Okay, so it starts to make some kind of sense. So yeah, I feel like a good way to approach it, kinda, although I won't be able to do it right now, is pretty much to shade the dress normally, like make it pretty dark, and then you add reflections by switching to different colors in dodge mode layers. So let's say we want to add the cyan, we go pretty dark but like fully saturated and add those. That's so we wouldn't get like dirty colors of the reflections. You see, when you add them like this, they really work. But for that, you need to really first shade the dress like it's pretty dark, just kind of like metallic, dull color. So then on top of it, all these reflections would really work. And like, generally this holographic look, it's insane because it's literally just any gradient of reflections, which is already hard to paint. It sort of like goes through all the rainbow colors in each gradient. As it goes darker and brighter and darker and brighter, is going through like yellow to orange to red to pink to blue and to cyan and everything. Honestly, almost like just applying the gradient map. Let's see what that does. There's this rainbow gradient map. Yeah, only at the bottom it should go like black, I guess. Honestly, let me give it a good try then. So we keep this here. Now I'll only select the dress. Like, we need to find a good base, you know? This is a highly, like, insane, not really painterly effect. So maybe it would be a good idea to start with something completely not painterly and use the help of digital here. Oh my god. So this way we can kind of shade the dress. Like, this is insane right now, but what's cool about it is that we can kind of blend it with the original, like this color mode, right? So what I did was I duplicated the dress. It looked like this, just the dress. Then I applied some painting black and white on it, but that wasn't the end. I added these curves that go completely insane, like inverting colors back and forth several times. And then the gradient map of this rainbow that just took advantage, like translated all these jumps of brightness into these colors, like anything black is this, anything white is this, the middle gray is here, so is creating these rainbow transitions between light and shadow. And that's why when you add new details, it's showing up like this. So maybe that's something I would start with. What's important is to apply it in the color mode, for instance, so it wouldn't be like completely killing all the values, but only introducing certain types of it. It's like, it almost like if you make the picture black and white, it will almost look like normal, just shiny material. So it's only like in hue where it really changes. Not really, it's also affecting the brightness, but generally you can see how we're really getting much closer to the look we would want by doing this trick. Like, that's definitely the way I would go with it, you know, simply because it's probably beyond human abilities. Unless you like have a lot of time and that's your thing, but I don't think anyone will be impressed. The point is, of course, this is not the final look. Then you merge all it together and you apply your brushwork on top. But it's important to have this base, you know, to have good colors, since they're incredibly complex. And right now, the way RGB blending works, even if we desaturate the colors, it will still look maybe even more realistic, really, because these colors are probably not the best variant of it. But generally, you see the values are also affected even though we apply it in just color mode. That means don't touch values. They still get affected because blue is darker than yellow, even if they're of the same brightness. And yeah, you can like just tone it down, introduce it like a little bit. That would be your black and white version, for instance. I just like the black and white version so much more because this is insane. And yeah, you can like jump around and add real details using the just completely black and completely white brush. And this system of layers will take care of these insane colors. Oh yeah, your dress was like almost completely golden. So it's like golden holographic and pink holographic. Well, we can of course also do that by adding... So yeah, at first we make it just golden like this, with these colors, and then on top we add this whole rainbow thing, and then just introduce it a little bit. And that's how you get like this yellow yet holographic dress. Yeah, I would go with something like this. And yeah, using this technique plus a lot of references could probably get you somewhere. And yeah, generally the dynamics of the dance and the lighting, I guess we addressed that stuff. Hope it was helpful. Next patient is Q. Hi Boro. Hi Q. Hope you're good. This is a drawing I made of Ariel. I considered your advice when painting this, and my goal was to preserve the dynamic loose energy of the original sketch without it becoming too stiff or over-rendered. Although I guess under-rendering is more of a problem for me. Well, honestly, I have no clue what to do with this one. Generally, because, like, do you guys see any problems here? I don't. Like, if I would have to, literally everything's great. I even don't mind this little tangent right here. It's just fine. This is one place where I would actually go for the perfect kind of thing, because it's like this, you know, almost abstract flat place with a frame, so who cares? One thing, maybe I would add a little bit of the shading on the side of the face. I'll probably do it in a separate layer to preserve some kind of texture. You have like this noise going on everywhere. I should add it to my stuff. So like middle gray, add noise a lot. I'll tone it down if I need to. And then I'll like blur it, although that's not the way you did it. I'll probably blur it, but then semi-transparently bring it back a little bit. And then blur it again. Yeah, that looks about right. I'm not sure, maybe yours black and white noise. But anyway, we should apply it in like overlay. And now there is a whole lot of noise for whatever I will paint here. Like mine's a lot more colorful, I don't know. It's good enough for overpaint, okay? So yeah, I would add this kind of thing here. Like everything will be too strong. Maybe this whole hand should be a bit darker, like just talking about generally values. I feel like it's really good values generally, like is there a photo reference or how is it? And yeah, like these fingers are pointing the same direction as all the bright stuff, unless the light is very local, which I don't think it is. Like, I can see you introduce like redness to the fingers, but that redness can also be like brighter. I don't really like the shading on the tail, I guess. Like this stuff could be much stronger. This is also, like in the previous submission, a reflective material, almost holographic too. So yeah, a lot of those reflections can happen. And yeah, on these super strong reflections, that's where you can show some scales. Yeah, like you kind of did it here, right? So yeah, I don't know, like, I just went around it a little bit. That's what I did. Honestly, just an awesome picture. It doesn't, like, if it works in everything, don't fix it. Awesome work as is, Q. Now, next and final patient is Lowstar. Hi, Boro. Hi, Lowstar. How have you been? I'm alright. I don't know what I need help with for this piece, which I suppose can be a problem as well. I find it easier to evaluate others' works than my own. Well, especially when yours is so perfect. I left a couple of perfect ones for the end. By your evaluation, if you can recall my other pieces I have submitted, what are my consistent weaknesses that I could try and focus further on? And what are my strengths? I've been rather down as of late, so I could use a little boost of knowing what higher concepts I am getting right that aren't immediately obvious. Well, yeah, I mean, I really like this picture, seeing very few problems with it, if any, really, so I don't know, it's really cool. I would make a few different decisions, like, I'm not a fan of this green glow, I'm not sure what its message is, but maybe it's fine. Really, the bigger problem is this foot. It has a very weird thing, like she's having the cramps or something. Like constantly tense foot. And the second one is also having similar issues. I can see there's a spot of light that ends right on this heel, I guess. That's why the light is so a bit like strange on the foot. But yeah, generally I would increase brightness here. Yeah, and here as well. And it feels like this is curving like a leaf a little bit. Like in here, they also curve like this. That's a thing. Maybe pay a bit more attention to the foot. Generally, the flow of the foot is it goes in, then out, and then these go in, but also out in the end. And it's important, like this double curvature, and you sort of do just this on all of them. Like this final thing where the toenail is. It's not facing downwards, it should be going like forward. There's just something to pay attention when you work with the references and everything. But yeah, I absolutely love this main place, like it's looking absolutely glorious, and you put a lot of contrast and this awesome rim lighting on it that makes it the main thing of this picture, and that's awesome. Yeah, like this should curve out and then face like this again. And also there's a lot of spaces between them, like that requires tension to have your feet like that. I would like push them together a little bit maybe. I'm not sure how much you want to keep things in the style of drawing. Like I can see you have dark outlines in specific places where there should be shadow. Instead you go into this pale drawing thing, and it's kind of cool. Like I would think of adding like darker shadows in certain places, but I think you are aware of that. You just decided to keep it all like this pale look, so I don't think that would even improve things. But yeah, the feet are the weak point here, and maybe the shape of this elbow like this. I'm not sure how that happened. This is an elbow, and that would be that elbow. Like it needs to be going from over there. Like I was expecting to have some issues with putting it here. Like maybe that's why you had a problem and you did all of that, but I'm not seeing much. Maybe you didn't see it or something. Like look at that. That's so weird. So yeah, just little anatomical details are a bit of an issue, but aside from that, it's really, really cool. Also, it's kind of killing me, it should be here. Like yeah, at the top I wouldn't touch it. Yeah, this just feels so much better. Like the point is, there's the foot that's sticking out, but also this distance is a little bit bigger than this, so it's kind of balancing each other out. And yeah, at the bottom, there's just little tail, and this distance will be enough. Like, there's not a lot of weight to it. This was too much extra stuff here. Aside from that, awesome work, Lowstar. Alright then, I guess that'll be it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for your submissions. There's so much more left. I didn't go in the chronological order, don't you guys worry about that. The Overpain tier is still locked, so I'm not accepting any submissions yet, because I need to make sure I work through all the submissions first. So I'll go back to, like, starting from here. There's a bunch of submissions that I haven't touched yet. Everyone will get their time on this channel. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Well, seems like there's 12 more. That'll make a few more episodes, I guess.